The West Tigers podcast is brought to you by the West Tigers Podcast Forum. Have your say on anything to do with the West Tigers, westtigerspodcast.com.au. It's the West Tigers podcast, episode number 381. If you want to be official, that is the official number of the pod, roaring up towards 400. I'm pretty sure I made some pretty big predictions about the West Tigers making the top four or something like that before we got to episode number 500 or 450 or something like that. I'll have to go back and find that. But anyway, 381, the season's about to kick off, and it's a midweek pod, so I have to think about how I do all this because I'm used to doing the Sunday night one, which Eddie said that I said is like the premium one, but I don't know about that. That's Eddie saying that. That's not me. Steve is here and Declan is here, and that means no Gary. So it's a Gary-free podcast. Steve, how have you been?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joel. I'm incredibly excited about getting out to Campbelltown on Friday afternoon. The bag's packed, the jersey's laid out, I'm ready to go. Basically, don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but anyway.
It's the graveyard shift. It's the worst schedule of the round. That 6 o'clock game on a Friday night, Declan. It's a funny time zone, funny time to be having a game of football. Are you going to be getting along to Campbelltown?
Yeah, that's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? I'm unfortunately away on a wedding, so I'll be watching the game on my phone, hopefully. Not during the actual wedding ceremony. Hopefully it'll be at the reception by the time kickoff starts. But yeah, really bummed I can't get out there because I think it would be like there's been a few really good crowds last season, even when we weren't doing well. So just to see, especially all the new recruits, like to see Luai actually playing in the jersey for the first time, I reckon it'll be a bit of a buzz around the place. So I'm a bit sad that I can't come, but yeah, I'm sure it'll be great for everyone else who gets involved.
Yeah, it's kind of a surreal thing. We'll talk about Luai in a moment. Just wanted to mention for the Tigers fans that are in northern New South Wales or southeast Queensland, but we've got our fingers crossed for you all as that storm bears down, and hopefully, first and foremost, everybody is safe and all our property and everything is safe up there. But also, fingers crossed that you're still going to be able to watch the game as well, which could be a factor with that storm looking pretty bad at this stage on Wednesday night. That part of the world, southeast Queensland, Steve, was where this Thrive or Survive film was taken at the army camp at Sandford in just west of Brisbane. And I don't know if Declan's seen that yet, but I watched it this afternoon. Declan's giving me the nod. He watched it. And I know that you've watched it, Steve. I've got to firstly give Eddie a bit of a Red Cross because he said that the West Tigers hadn't produced any quality content over the off-season. He was partially right, but I think they've redeemed themselves. I thought this was an excellent half an hour of West Tigers media.
Well, we all know that Eddie goes off like a cracker in an outdoor dunny. So he's gone off a little bit early again, and we all sat back and said, "You're wrong, Eddie. Hold back, hold your fire." But Eddie being Eddie. No, it's absolutely fantastic. It would be, and there are others putting this out on the socials. It's not just me saying this. It'd be the best content the West Tigers have ever put out there, and we've only seen half an hour, like the first of a series. I'm not sure. I think there might be 3 in the series. I could be wrong. There might be more. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it was just brilliant. And can I say that was an amazing segue from Storms into Thrive and Survive. Very good job.
Fell into place, didn't it? Yeah, that part of the world. Declan, it was an inside view, maybe a little more intimate than what we're kind of used to. Like to actually hear the coach mic'd up and some of the personal conversations that he was having with guys like Turuva and Galvin. You couldn't help watch it and think, this is good. Like, it makes me want to be sort of part of it, if that makes sense. Like, it felt like they were all connected and had such a good vibe about it.
Yeah, I thought watching it for the first time, it felt very authentic. I think sometimes with these kind of pre-season content videos, it can feel a bit like a puff piece or a fluff piece where, it's just clearly everything's going great. We're training the house down, all those kind of cliches. But with this, it felt very, raw, kind of honest. It didn't really like go into like the kind of results on the field. It kind of more focused on like the hardship of the preseason and like kind of building up that camaraderie. So with that, it felt very honest, very kind of, and it felt like you really were on the journey with them. So it was like some incredible access. Like, yeah, that stuff between Benji and Turuva, I thought that was great. You really kind of, it's strange because we've kind of, Benji Marshall's been in our lives for so long. We've known him as a player, but like he's, as a coach, he is kind of quiet. Like he doesn't really give much away in press conferences and like media. So to see him kind of have that one-on-one with Turuva, I think that was really good. And then with the other players as well. So yeah, it was really raw and honest. And I'm keen to see the other parts to it. I didn't actually know that there was 2 more parts to it. I thought it was a one-off thing. So I'm very excited to see what's next for it. Because yeah, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, it would stand up well just as a single parter. Camaraderie, Steve. I heard you guys talking last week on the West Tigers podcast about there seems to be a camaraderie, there seems to be a bond, there seems to be an energy there among this playing group. And sometimes you get that feeling, but something feels a little bit different this year.
You're right, Joel. Something does feel different, and we're all very cautious to speak about this feeling of, this anticipation of what's about to unfold this season, because we have been there before. So we're sort of like dipping our toes in a little bit, but there is a definite feeling of immense change in the club. The roster shows that, demonstrates that. I think the way Shane Richardson conducted himself and the club over the off-season shows that. And I think that video, that snippet of an insight that we got also demonstrated that. And the part that got me, and, I tell you what, I almost teared up, probably take the word almost out there. At that point where Dream Buller started running off to do that task at the end. I don't want to give too much away if people haven't watched it. And then everyone followed him. Like the whole club went with him, And that to me said it all about how close-knit and where these guys are at the moment. Now, it's got to transfer on Friday night, right? We've got to see it on the field. But, I'm fairly optimistic we're going to.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right about the Buller bit. He puts his hand up to potentially head off the whole team having to do extra work, and he really takes it on board. Takes the task to hand, and you could tell that he was struggling, but you could tell at the end that you knew they were all going to get around him, and they were all going to, it was just such a special moment. And Luai said he will never forget that. Like it was something that really stood out to him. Declan.
Yeah, when Luai said that, I just said, "Geez, for someone who's won like 4 competitions in a row, in a row with Penrith Panthers, for him to say that, like it must, like in the moment, it must be something special." But yeah, for Buller to do all that. And then for Eddie still to bag him on the group chat after, that was something. So I think Eddie might owe Buller an apology. I think he might have overstepped the mark with that one.
I did hear from the guys that run that camp, and they were looking for a volunteer. And I volunteered Eddie, so he's going to go up and he's going to do the weekend. So I think that's deserving. Yeah,
I reckon if Madge ever gets sacked from the Broncos, that he could have that as a career. I could so easily. There was that bald guy who was the instructor, and I thought that could be Madge. Like in another life, that could be him up there screaming at them. So
drill sergeant.
Yeah.
One of the other aspects of that first part of the series that I thought was really telling, and I mentioned this in the last pod that I was on, when I said that I was at the season launch and heard Benji Marshall talk about it, and he just spoke with such authority, but such raw passion, and he owned all of his decisions from last year and owned where he's at as a coach and his role in where the club, how the club performed last year and where we're heading. And it wasn't fluff, it was absolute honest appraisal. And we saw that again, maybe not so much in the one-on-one stuff, that was really good, but when he was actually addressing the whole club and what he wanted to get out of the camp, and it was there's an authenticity about him. He's very authentic, and I can see how that would rub off on players and why they would want to run through brick walls for him.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because we always hear about Luai and like Terrell May talking about how they had that like a good connection with Benji Marshall, and that was a big reason why they signed with the club. That he managed to really connect with them on that personal level to like convince them that the Tigers was the right next move for them. And I think just seeing that like actually on video with Turuva is like, it kind of shows you that, you know, Benji Marshall does have those people skills. And I think it's just really good in terms of like controlling the narrative going forward, because now people can associate that with Benji. And I honestly think that it's a skill that not every coach has, because like, especially with that like Tales from Tiger Town stuff. I mean, I remember we would see Madge kind of interact with the players, and it was just the kind of exact opposite of that. It felt very forced, like not very authentic, kind of a little bit awkward. Like, I don't want to bag out Madge, obviously, because he's not the coach anymore. But yeah, like just apples and oranges, isn't it, from like what Benji was shown in the documentary.
Can I throw something else out there? And I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, Joel. You're going to mention this later. But that's actually the second video that was being released this week that just reeked of authenticness and raw pride in our club. And that is it Tristan? No? Yeah. That small video where he gets taken into Benji's office and Benji tells him he's going to be in the 17 this weekend. I'm prepared to say I was in tears watching that. Like, it got me incredibly. Like, this guy has worked so hard for so long. You know, when he's talking to his wife and he's saying, or his mum, or I couldn't quite tell who was doing it, but he was saying it's been such a journey. Oh man, there's something special, bro. It really is.
Well, it's also good content for the fans, because there's moments of vulnerability, there's moments of humanity there that we often don't get to see. So, congratulations to the club for exposing those moments. So, you know, like, you know, being some of the guys that was scared of heights and having to do one particular exercise there at the camp, and Tristan Hope's teary response when he learned he was going to play first grade. I mean, that's really good content. But my favourite bit, Steve, is 8 minutes in, where they get chewed out for not filling up the water bottles. I just thought that was so good. And the guy from the camp said, "Where is your attention to detail?" So there was 2 or 3 big jerry cans, and they hadn't filled them all the way up. And he chewed them out about it. I just loved it. That was fantastic.
It took 15 text messages and phone calls to get him to use those words.
Yeah. Yeah, those little asterisks and copyright came up. Copyright Steve Stratton underneath it. But I just thought that was fabulous. So that was great. And keep it going, you know, have those standards. What stands out a little bit just more on a couple of sort of individual bits was learning more about Galvin, Declan, and that is that he's, you know, sometimes has struggled to, and you look, how could you not? He's 19, coming into a football team that's with guys that are a lot older and a lot more experienced, but trying to develop his voice more, trying to get him to be louder, which seems to be a little bit at odds with what his personality seems to show at that surface level. But that was also a bit of vulnerability. You know, he's not perfect. He doesn't walk on water. There are things that he needs to work on in his game and in his approach to the game.
Yeah, that was a bit surprising, because like, if you just looked at him on the field, like, he's like, you know, he does have a bit of a presence. He does demand the ball. So I'll be interested to see in like more specific detail that what Benji was talking about. But yeah, I think it's like, for a teenager, it's like to be expected. And then, you know, some people, it doesn't come naturally, and it's something you do have to develop. And yeah, I do agree. It does. It's good to see like a kind of other side of these players, especially someone like Galvin, who there's like lots of media hype around and lots of headlines. So it's good to see him kind of in that like training environment, and good to see like the kind of relationship, like obviously hopping back onto Benji, but it's good to see that, you know, someone like Benji is like pushing these young players to continue to develop, which I think is really important, especially for like, because we are a development club. So yeah, it's great to see. Hopefully there's a bit more of that. But yeah, because I would have thought Galvin kind of reminded me like a little bit of Mitchell Moses at the same age, like just someone who like loves to like chat on the field and like someone who demands the ball. So yeah, it was an interesting piece of insight, because it's not something I would have picked up on just from watching him play. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And Luai, Steve, I was just really impressed. He just, you know, he's got that air about him, but he's also seems to me to just be, it seems to be like a guy that's got a good heart. Like that's what comes across, is that people actually are drawn to him, not just because of what he's done, but because of who he is.
Yeah, I think that come across emphatically in that short video that we got to watch. He's a man of character and a man of values. And that goes with him no matter where he is. So whether he's playing for Penrith Panthers, playing for West Tigers, or imagine home with his family, those values, those character traits, that what he is, not what he does, comes through, and he commands respect. He seems to me to be the sort of guy that walks into the room when he speaks, people are going to stop and listen to him, because I think what he says has purpose to it, has meaning to it, and is directed. It's not just beautiful.
It's still a little surreal, like Declan. That's kind of like, Turuva and Luai. We know them so much as Penrith players, and they still haven't played for us. But so it's kind of like this weird. They're kind of like one of us, but it's kind of like, why is Jerome Luai there? Like it still feels a little bit weird. We need to get that first game out of the way.
Yeah, it's just crazy because it's essentially just been 18 months since he signed with
it. It's been forever.
It just feels like an absolute eternity. And he still hasn't played for us yet. So, yeah, it's just crazy. And I think watching the Eels trial, just how much of a difference these quality players make. Watching Skeldon play, watching Bird play, these guys make a big difference. So I'm really excited to see, guys like Turuva and guys like Luai bring. Because I think as Tigers fans, we'll be able to immediately see the impact that having these quality players has on the team. So yeah, very excited for Friday.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that game. 6 o'clock, Campbelltown, West Tigers versus the Knights. One thing that worth mentioning is this losing streak that we've got against the Knights. 6 games. We haven't beaten them since 2021. Ironically, the ironic thing is we beat them twice in 2021 during COVID. But then we've lost 6 games against the Knights. Declan, that's terrible, given, I know we've been terrible, but the Knights haven't exactly set the world on fire the last few years. That's a worrying trend. We've got to break that, surely, this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, the Knights, they've always been, whenever they've had Ponga, they've always been a team that can challenge, the good teams and, be around that mid-table spot. So, they're not, it's not like they're, perennial bottom 4 contenders like we have been. So it doesn't surprise me that we went on a long losing streak. But I think this is going to be a tough game for us because the Knights, they have a good squad, they have a good team, they have a superstar, and they can attack. So we're going to have to play really well. I think this is probably a good first up opportunity for a test for us because the Eels, they didn't have their halves. It was a pretty good strength team, but I think this is definitely the next level of playing a fully fit Newcastle Knights team that probably will finish where we're aiming or hoping to finish, which is around that 8th spot. So yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot on Friday.
So historically, the Knights are a bit of a value team because they do, well, in my opinion, they do a couple of things that we have never handled well. One is forward momentum. They would have Saifedi brothers and Frizzell coming off the back fence and just getting us on the back foot and going backwards from the first minute of the game. And then with Ponga and Bradman Best and the like, they would just hit us on the edges with shape fast and strip us of numbers and Ponga would generally go berserk. Now he didn't in that early game last year. That was just a terrible performance by us because Ponga went off really early. But generally that's what's happened against the Knights. So we've got a bit of an Achilles heel, but we're a very different side this year. So I think it's we'll talk about it later.
If you're just purely looking at the lineups, Declan, it seems to me if you look at their centres, I like their centres better than ours. But and Fletcher Sharp's a good, talented young player who's maybe playing a bit out of position at 5'8", but I like our halves better. I think we've got a little bit beaten there. If we just, going back to that 6-game losing streak against the Knights, they've always been pretty close games. I think if we look at the back line, I'm kind of think they sort of even themselves out. As I say, Bradman Best was very, very good against us in the last game. Naden had a really bad game. The backs and the halves, I think, were pretty evenly matched overall.
I think halves, I would take. I agree with you, but I think outside backs, I think they've got us for quality, to be honest. And like obviously we've got some injuries as well, but I think it's tough because the thing that the Knights were really, really good at, especially against the Roosters, that we were like oppositely really, really bad at, was edge defence. Like I think the Bulldogs and the Eels stripped us for numbers like pretty easily without doing anything special. And you kind of just saw the Newcastle that they just glided, especially on that left edge against the Roosters. Now maybe the Roosters had like an off game, but that I just saw that and I thought, geez, it's going to be a big markup for Patapi and Dewey because like Ponga, Bradman, Best, like they can when they're on form, like they're tough to handle. But I think that there's a real opportunity to like bash them in the forwards, and I think if we're going to win this game, we really have to take it to them early in the middle and kind of stop them from like getting good ball on those edges, because I think the more quality time that Ponga has, the more likely it is they're going to win, and vice versa. I think that their pack is a little bit unknown in terms of form at the moment, because like obviously Jacob Saifidi still there. Not really sure how he's going to go. Kai Paul Pierce, like up and down. Lucas is a good player. Fazell's playing lock, so we're not really sure how he's going to transition. So I think there's room there for our forwards to have a little bit of joy, and I think if we're going to win the game, we have to take advantage of that, especially in a home crowd when the energy is going to be with us. I think we really have to, in that first 20 minutes, just really assert ourselves. And then if we can do that, I think that we can ride it. And then, Luai, Gavin start putting off the back of it. But I think if it's kind of a straight shootout, I'm not sure that we'll have the defensive capabilities to handle them on the edges. So I think, just the forward battle is just so important for us this game.
Yeah, look, if you look at going back to the back line, Turuva and Skelton on the wings, Steve, I mean, that should provide plenty of thrust for us, get some good meters. But I keep coming back to those centres and think that's a bit of our weak spot. I mean, albeit Fatape's played okay, Dewey's had, he's been in pretty good, he played pretty well against the Eels, albeit he was playing at halfback primarily. Are they the centres that you would have gone for? Because you could have even put Turuva and Skelton in the centres and gone with someone like a Charlie Staines. Or you could have put Jack Bird there. Like, what did you think when you saw Dewey and Fatape?
Oh, well, I was surprised because I wasn't expecting Toa to be out. I thought it'd be Dewey and Toa, as most people did. But outside of that, no, I'm not overly surprised. Dewey has had the trial form, deserved his spot. Fatape has been getting a run. Obviously, he's thought of fairly highly by Benji and the coaching staff, so it didn't surprise me that he was next man up. Yeah, there's been that talk of Turuva maybe being in the centres and they could have brought Charlie Staines in, but that, Charlie Staines hasn't been playing, I don't think, very good football, so I don't know that he deserved that opportunity. I'm glad I'm glad Bird is where he is. I think he was so good in the trial coming off the bench and going into pocket around that 25-minute mark, and so I want to see that happen again. I agree with you. Our weakness is, if you look at our weaknesses, definitely in the centres. I don't believe it's an outside backs situation. I actually think our wingers are stronger, but definitely the centres are weaker. But for me, it's round one, right? So it's the KISS principle. Keep it simple. And the fact we've got Turuva and Skelton starting the game on the wings and playing the 80 minutes probably on the wing, I think it's going to help us start our sets well. And Mason proved to be quite elusive as well. So the start of our sets, I think, will be stronger than it was last year. And then we've got a stronger forward pack, so we should be able to continue that momentum. And again, if we just play that simple game plan where we aim to get over the halfway line by our fifth tackle and then drive it deep in the corners, good kick chase, and keep Newcastle pinned down, minimise our errors, don't let them out with penalties and piggybacks and six agains and that sort of thing. And I think we're in the game because then we're controlling the flow of the game, right? The minute we let Newcastle get the momentum, and there's no reason they should get the momentum, because as Declan said, he's right. Our forward pack, starting and bench, are fairly evenly matched, so we should be able to match them. So if we play a good game and play error-free or as close to error-free as possible and pin them down, we're going to minimise the opportunity that Ponga gets and their halves Perry and then Bradman and Besson get to rip shreds, rip us apart out wide. So that's my thinking.
Yeah, plus I think if we can control possession, I think Fletcher Sharp in the trials showed that he's vulnerable in the front line. I saw he made some pretty bad misses when that back rower on his side ran that tight line. So I think we can really get some joy from attacking them in that sense. So yeah, I think it's just going to be one of those things where whoever kind of assert themselves in the middle is probably going to win the ball, because that means that team is going to get more quality time to someone like Luai or Ponga. So yeah, I think the forwards is going to be a big one for this game.
Well, Terrell May and Whenua Pole had huge games against the Eels, so we would love a repeat of that, because they're up against Saifidi and Leo Thompson, so they've got a bit there. The back row for us, Fainu and Alex Seyfarth and Alex Twal. You'd think Declan Twal will move into that prop rotation. Maybe Jack Bird comes on 25 minutes, something like that, to play maybe as a distributing sort of role. I thought he played excellent against the Eels.
Yeah, I really do like that variety with Alex Twal to just come in to start the game, make all his tackles, just make sure that the middle of the field is tight and there's nothing loose going on. And then, Jack Bird comes in, plays that 13 role when the sting is out of the game, and then he can kind of take advantage of some more space in the middle of the field, because it's going to be an interesting one though, because we have a mobile, hard-working forward pack, but the Knights have a bit of size about them, especially the starting packs. I'll be really interested to see if we can absorb that size, because I think the Eels, they were kind of the same. They didn't have any massive Nelson and Sofa Solomon type players, and we were able to match it with them. But it's going to be interesting to see how we counteract that size, and if we can take advantage of the size when it gets fatigued. Because someone like Pole, if we can just absorb that initial hit, I think there's going to be space for our forwards to kind of use their footwork to get between defenders and generate quick play of the balls.
And it's our last chance, Steve, because we still haven't seen Luai play. We haven't seen Luai play with Galvin. It's our last chance to predict, is Luai going to be... Because he was cemented, glued, siliconed, welded, you name it. He was on that left side of the Panthers and very rarely strayed anywhere else but the left side. Is he going to be in a similar role? How is this going to work with Galvin, do you see? Do you see them swapping sides? Do you see Luai over on the right sometimes? I'm just fascinated. That's one of the biggest reasons for me wanting to go and looking forward to this game, is to seeing how this works.
Not so much swapping. I think that they will start. Luai will start left. Galvin will start right. That's how it will be. They will link. They will play next 6 to 7, linking, passing a lot. I think you'll find Galvin will come across left more often than Luai goes right to meet Galvin. I think they've shown that in the trials. Galvin is keen to get down that left side, but I do think they will work together quite a lot. They definitely won't just isolate left and right and play on that all game. There'll be a lot of linking. And I think when Bird comes on as well, he will give them that extra pass to get them just that little bit wider to open the game up a little bit. So that's what I'm guessing is going to happen. I can't wait to see.
That left, I was going to say, Declan, that left edge, Samuel Afenu, Turuva, Dewey, I'm looking forward to that as well. And whoever's chiming in there, I'm sure it'll be Luai at times, not Robert Louis, definitely not. Luai at times, but that's pretty potent. That's something we've got to take into account.
Yeah, I think just looking at the trials, I agree with Steve. It looks like Galvin had range to rove around. He popped up on both sides of the field. I'll be interested to see if in round one our passes are more crisp and we're getting to the points of attack quicker, because especially in the Eels game, there was a lot of kind of skipping across defenders with the ball in hand, trying to find that preferential matchup, which is kind of what led to Lachlan Galvin's try, where he set up Adam Dewey, who then went to Skeldon. That was just him drifting across the field to eventually get to the player he wanted to then accelerate. So I'll be interested to see if they kind of play more like Penrith do, or it's just bang, 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 hit the point of attack, the back rower, back across, if it's going to be more straight. So I'm going to be really interested to see that. I have a feeling that Luai might, in this game, play a little bit like Cleary does, like operate that middle space a little bit more, and then every now and again he'll then switch to second receiver off Galvin to create that overlap. And then it's going to be really interesting to see like on the right side of the field as well, because I think Galvin will stay there, but like the right side isn't his like most dominant side usually. So it's going to be interesting to see if Luai does come across to that side as well to kind of provide more attack and like kind of more options. So yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be really interesting because we don't really quite know how it's going to work at this point in time.
In that Eels trial, Fatape played on the left-hand side, but he's traditionally played on the right for us. I think looks a little bit more comfortable on the right. That's where he played in the trial against the Bulldogs, and I think he scored 3 tries as well. So, I think I've got my doubts about Fatape, but we've seen him play some pretty decent football, so you never know. He might just grab that position, at least for the next little bit, fingers crossed. Sione Fainu, Royce Hunt on the bench, along with Jack Bird, of course, and Tristan Hope, where the Knights have got Hetherington, Brodie Jones and Matt Croker. So I like our bench, I do, and Tristan Hope was very encouraging in that game against the Eels. He certainly deserved to go in first grade. It's going to be interesting, Declan, how that battle goes when Appy is back. If the club sticks with the young gun, Talon De Silva, and keeps him sort of in the mix of first grade, or gives him an extended time in New South Wales Cup, and Tristan Hope maybe keeps that bench spot. Like, there's good competition between those two, I can foresee, in this game and moving forward.
Yeah, I think that Tristan Hope was signed just to provide, like, I think someone like that, I think he was signed so that the New South Wales Cup team would be competitive, because last year they were just anything but competitive. So to bring like actual quality players to then lift the standard so that there's actually a sense of development with the younger players. But yeah, I think he's going to he's going to keep De Silva on his toes for sure. I would be starting the year with De Silva because I want to see him play more time in first grade and like build that up so that he is developing at that area. But yeah, if Tristan Hope is like playing better, then I think like De Silva's got to be on his toes, because like the thing about Hope is that he's more of the finished product. Like, he's more polished. You kind of know what you're going to get from him more consistently. But De Silva's been a little bit up and down. So obviously it's going to spark like better performances from De Silva, because it wasn't like last year where like he was pretty much the only other pick. Like, he actually has someone he needs to compete against now. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
I'll tell you what else I think is going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, and that is De Silva and Galvin's combination, because one thing I didn't realise is they played all their schoolboy and junior footy together, so they have really well-established combination already, albeit at a junior level. So I'm really keen to watch that, just how well they do work together. And what else I think is interesting is whether Galvin overcalls Luai with that combination. Already said he plays like just like when you're under pressure and under fatigue, it's easy to go with what right, and very easy to throw the ball out to Galvin as opposed to maybe Luai pulling through. So that'll be interesting to watch. But to your point, Declan, it's obvious. You watch that video, it's obvious that Benji Marshall has a fairly high opinion of Tristan Hope, so he's got an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm again looking forward to seeing how he goes. The 18th man will be Latu Fainu. The poor old Newcastle number 18. No, I've got no faith in him. Thomas Cart. What an unfortunate name. And Jackson Hastings, Declan, your favourite player, number 21 for the Knights. He's well and truly in purgatory.
Yeah, I don't think Hastings' move to the Knights was as fruitful as I think everyone thought it would be. It's interesting that I feel like Tim Sheen's he got a lot wrong when he was here for a second stint, but I think he pretty much nailed that Hastings probably was a little bit too slow to play that half-back role, and at the time it was really frustrating because it seemed like he was the only kind of shite running light in a pretty much kind of hopeless squad. So yeah, that was tough to take at the time, but I think that it's actually worked out really well for us long term, because if we sign Hastings on that big 3-year deal that you got at the Knights, and Luai probably doesn't come So it just shows that like these kind of sliding doors moments that sometimes, you know, like saying no is like more powerful than, you know, like saying yes to these contract situations. So yeah, just a little like a hypothetical situation there.
Well, especially when you've got someone who, you know, not to beat up on him, but who is determined to play in a position, but people don't agree that that's his best position. Like, it's really hard to fit someone who's not a team player in, who's sort of team first. Any predictions, Steve? What is your prediction in this game against the Knights? Let's test your optimism.
Yeah, well, I have to say I've been sitting on the fence, mainly because look, I've got a lot of faith in this new side. I think we're going to go well. I think it's a new era for West Tigers, and I'm expecting something very different to the garbage we've seen over previous seasons. But I'm also conscious of the fact that Ponga usually rips us to shreds. Right? So I've been sitting on the fence. I think we match up really evenly. I agree with everything we've said tonight. You know, they've got the better centres pairing, but I think we've got the better halves pairing. The forwards, it's 50-50 all the way. So what it comes down to for me, you know, it's an old cliche. It's who wants it more, right? Who's going to get down and dirty, and who wants this game? And after watching that Thrive or Survive video today, I'm just reinforcing there's something special about the West Tigers. I think Newcastle, you know, over the last couple of seasons at least, has been, you know, question marks about the coach and harmony with the playing group. So I reckon if it's close and if we're getting down and dirty and who wants to win more, I think we're going to get away with it. So I'm going to tip us 22-18.
Okay. Declan?
I think just talking tonight about it and like thinking about it a little bit more deeply, I think it'd be a hard exercise for the Newcastle Knights about how to prepare for us, because like us as fans don't even know like what the game plan's going to look like how Luai is going to play, how Galvin's going to play, even like, you know, like Bill is not playing, you know, how's Mason going to fit into all this, and then obviously Giselva as well. So I reckon that we could, like with the home crowd, kind of ambush them a little bit and put them in shock. And then if we can put them in shock, I think we'll be good enough to like keep their, like put pressure on the halves of the Knights who aren't like the most well known, and then that might struggle to allow Ponga to get into the game. So I reckon we could maybe get away with, I don't know, like an 18 points to 12 scoreline. I reckon something along those lines.
There's predictions, like people are expecting a big scoreline here, but there's too many question marks there, and there's the weather as well. I mean, the rain is expected to hit Sydney, you know, on Friday or Thursday night, so that could be a factor as well. I think that number that you said, 18, Steve, is very important. I think we've got to hold them to 18 if we're going to win this game.
Yeah, and one other thing I forgot to mention, which is probably the most important thing, really, and I said it earlier in the pod, it's round one, right? Mistake-free footy. The team that misses the least number of tackles and makes the least number of mistakes should come away with the 2 points, really. So, you know, Benji can be a little bit conservative with his game plans, and so that mightn't be such a bad thing tonight. You know, just run hard and straight, quick play the balls, play down their end of the field. Don't make mistakes, keep them down there and be good for this.
Just going back to that camaraderie thing, I think the thing too is that it's one thing to have camaraderie, but that will, if you look at the Panthers, right, and you look at the energy of that team, but you look at the momentum that team has had. I don't know if they've still got it, but that momentum that they've had where winning has become a habit. Like, it's such an important game for the West Tigers to win this game, to get off on that front foot, to get some confidence, to start a new era. A loss represents the continuation of an era. This is probably one of the most important games of the last 5 years, I think, for the West Tigers. So I really hope they turn up, and I really hope that it's the performance that we think that we can have. Unfortunately, a couple of players missing, that's definitely a factor. You get a little bit scared when you look at a few of the Knights players, but I'm pretty confident. I think if we can hold them to about 18, I think that there's no reason why we can't win, Steve.
Can I just counter that a little bit? Like it makes sense. I agree with you to a point. But can I also just throw it out there that if it doesn't click on Friday night, it's not the end of the world. You know, it's round one with a brand new team. And if Luai doesn't fit in as well as we're hoping he does in the further, and the combination with Galvin's not as silky smooth as we hope, and if the forward pack does get dusted up a little bit, okay, I agree with you, Joel. It's not good because we are so wanting to see some success, but it's round one with a brand new team, the whole new combinations. So I'm hoping that if that happens, we can hold fire a little bit.
Was that message directed at Eddie, Steve?
I was actually trying to think as I was talking about it, saying like come up with an adjective, like let's not Eddie-ize it,
It actually feels a little bit like 2000, where you kind of got this new team that we've seen a little bit of, and it's at Campbelltown, and there's playing against a pretty good team. Like it's got that feel about it where this time last year we're probably pretty sure what we knew we were going to go and see out there, but this year it's kind of like what could this be, Declan?
After that St George trial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with Steve. Like, I wouldn't we were talking about all of these predictions about who we're going to win, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we get out there and Luai and Galvin look like they've never talked to each other before in terms of the combination. So those things take time as well. So, and as I said at the top of the show, I think the Knights are they're not a contending team, but they could, if everything goes right, be that second tier of team away from contenders, someone who's firmly in the top 8 if everything goes right. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good test, and if we lose, I'm not going to be, doing it Eddie.
Throwing his jersey on the field.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with the Knights. This last point is that their team's basically the same as it was last year. There's not too many question marks there. They know each other's game. It's a pretty sorted and settled sort of squad there at the moment. So that could be a good thing. Could be maybe not such a good thing. We'll find out. But I'm really, really looking forward to it. Steve's been really looking forward to the return of Yachty's trivia, Yachty's quiz. Is that right, Steve?
Well, I thought we'd given Yachty a wide berth this year. If I'd known this was coming before the pod, I'm going to scared of it.
Well, I think Gary, he and Gary would try to do a package deal to one of the other pods, but unfortunately didn't work out. So Yachty,
I love Yachty. I love spending time with Yachty. I love talking with him. But his quiz is so hard.
The quiz is too hard. Declan's confident. Okay, you know the rules. First in, best dressed. In his rookie 2003 season, Benji Marshall made 4 appearances for the joint venture. In which match did he register an unsuccessful conversion? We're not talking about a religious conversion. We're talking about a shot at goal. In which match did he miss a goal? Round 20 versus the Knights, which was his debut. We won 52-12. Round 23 versus the Broncos. That was his first time where he actually was a starter. We won that game 12-10 in the rain. I remember that game well. Round 24 versus the Panthers. He scored his first try. We lost 44-28. Or round D, number D, round 25 versus the Cowboys. The final appearance for Benji Marshall for the year, we lost 34-14. In which game did he make an unsuccessful conversion?
Declan.
Yes.
Was it A?
It was D. They didn't hand him the kicking boots in his debut.
You didn't give me a chance to give my...
Go, Steve. Well, did I tell you? Did I say it? Did I say the answer? D.
D.
Yeah, because I said it. Had one attempt with Dean Collis on debut, slotting 1 from 2. True or false? Jack Bird scored 17 tries for both the Dragons and the Sharks, which is the same number of appearances he made while at the Broncos.
Excellent. True.
It is true. He spent 2018-2019 in Brisbane. People will remember that after he won the premiership with the Sharks. Chris Lawrence was 17, and how many days when he made his NRL debut in 2006? Nearest to the pin.
Was it 4?
14.
17 and 4 days? Is that what you're saying, Declan?
Yeah.
And Steve is saying 14.
114.
114, yeah. Well, it is Steve. He was 17 and 283 days.
3-1.
So nearly 18. Name the 7 West Tigers players who share the same initials as the new 2025 signing, Jerome Luai. So JL. Can you name any other West Tigers players who have the initials JL? There has been 7 of them. I will give clues. Joey Leilua, yes. He sort of qualifies as a West Tigers player. Only one of these guys is still playing. He's playing for another Sydney club.
What possession does he play?
He played 75 games for the West Tigers, mostly off the bench. He scored a runaway try at Leichhardt in a famous win against the Panthers. Jacob Little. Or Jacob Liddell, if we're going to do Eddie. Any other guesses? We've got to go back in the time tunnel for the others. They all played... one of them played 2016, 2017, played 17 games. Steve's no hope. No. So
another hint.
Another hint? How good are you with foundation players, Declan?
Not very good.
No, because you weren't born in 2000. Then you won't know any of these guys, unfortunately. You will know this one, I think, Jack Littlejohn.
Oh, yes. How can I forget?
I had in my head Little Horn. I thought, no,
Jack Littlejohn, Joel Luani, Jamal Lalisi, who came to us from Canberra, and then I think he went and played for the Bulldogs after he played for us, I think, or he came from the Bulldogs. Anyway, I remember him as a Canberra player and a West Tigers player. He was one, Declan, of 4 players that we all had big high hopes on after we won the premiership. We thought we're going to be even better next year. We've got Jamal Lalisi coming, we've got Sam Harris coming, we've got Keith Galloway, and we've got one other player whose name escapes me. But we had the 4 big signings, and it didn't really work out.
I mean, Galloway was good. So
yeah, Galloway was good, but they certainly didn't add the what we thought they were going to add to a really good team. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no dynasty. No dynasty.
No. Jeff Lima was another one who played 2 games for the West Tigers, played primarily for the Melbourne Storm, and Jason Lowry, who was foundation prop, came over from the Roosters. Good player, Jason Lowry. Okay, last one. Who am I? Born in Liverpool in New South Wales, educated at Kalgoorlie State High School, represented Australian schoolboys in 2013, played NYC with the Bulldogs, made his NRL debut. It was his only appearance at his first club for 3 seasons. So he was at that club for 3 seasons, not the Bulldogs, but he only played 1 game. He later joined a Sydney team, not the West Tigers. He made 75 appearances in 5 seasons. He's still playing in the NRL. And he plays for the West Tigers.
Damien Cook.
He plays for the West Tigers.
Bird.
Skelton.
No.
Jack Bird.
Not Jack Bird. He's on the bench. Jack Bird's on the bench, but it's not Jack Bird.
Royce Hunt.
Royce Hunt, yes.
Yeah.
That was Canberra that he made his debut for. Played juniors...
These aren't really Newcastle-themed questions. I'm a bit disappointed in Laurie. He usually likes to keep it to a theme. That's why I think I'm a bit thrown here.
I know, and he even says at the top, Newcastle Knights. He's out of form. See, this is the trouble with first game of the season. It can be a little bit scratchy. Royce Hunt played juniors at Willagi. Is it Willagi or Willagi? I'm not sure. It must be in WA. And the Goldfields Titans, obviously in the WA Rugby League. Debuted with the Raiders in 2017. Joined Cronulla 2020 to 2024 and signed with the West Tigers on a 3-year deal from 2025. All right. Well, that's it for a midweek pod. Eddie will be back with the midweek pod next week. And I'll be back...
Unless we lose.
Hopefully then I'll be back here midweek. Hopefully a post-victory edition of the West Tigers podcast, where we will be sharing lots of one-word submissions from the West Tigers podcast forum. So don't forget to put your one-word submissions in. Anything to add, gentlemen?
Go Tigers.